The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
The traditional art market is continuing the trend of capitalizing on the NFT space. This week, the Sotheby's Metaverse is auctioning generative art, specifically 10 Chromie Squiggles by an artist called Snowfro. Joining us now is Michael Bouhanna, Deputy Director at Sotheby's. Hello there, Michael. So Miami Basel just ended, a traditional art fair where one of the highlights was the number of NFT exhibitions on display. Anything surprising that you came away with? And how does generative art fit into the picture?
So generative art is certainly one of the most important movements within the NFT space. And actually it's a movement that is quite interesting because it exists since decades, from the 1960s. But it really had a revival with the NFT technology. I think mostly because now generatives are able to market and show their work in their native state. And so we've seen some very important projects, including this Chromie Squiggle, really leading the NFT space. And we are extremely exciting. We just started yesterday this auction that we sell for the first time actually 10 unminted Chromie Squiggles. So it was for us to really put the light on this process of minting. And when actually the buyer or the viewer becomes an actor in the artistic process because he's the one reliving the actual work that he will receive. So it's we've seen a great excitement already with the bid already at 190,000, and we expect a lot of more bids coming in the next 6 days.
So you being in Miami Basel and talking to folks in the traditional art space, what did you come away with coming out of Art Basel? Are they interested in this?
Yes, I think it was great to see actually some NFT exhibition sales, the whole NFT world being very involved within Art Basel. And I've seen from all our NFT traditional clients that it helps actually getting them to understand and to get familiar to this new art form. It's still I think it's still very early, and there is still some work to do to either convert them or that they have a great understanding of what's an NFT and what artistic or historic value it could have. But it's with events like this alongside the traditional art fairs or and art weeks that we can see this evolving the right way.
Michael, good morning. We had, of course, a sell-off in the cryptocurrency markets that had an effect on the NFT market to some degree. Is there a concern that this kind of volatility that we're finding in the NFT markets might bleed into what's going on in the traditional art market, as there is more of a convergence between NFTs and traditional art auctions?
I think it's very correlated, and indeed, the NFT market can fluctuate depending on the crypto market. But at the same time, at Sotheby's, all our sales have give the opportunity for our buyers to pay in USD. And actually, we've seen a great amount of buyers, including in our last natively digital, that we sold 50 works for a total of 18 million, and half of it were actually paid in USD. So it's potentially clients who are not really affected or concerned by the value of the ETH or another crypto. So I think there will be with time, again, it will take time, but maybe the NFT as a digital art will become a bit more detached to the crypto world.
So one of the most famous art NFT sales was this ConstitutionDAO, which made a lot of headlines. And as we know, the DAO did not actually get a copy of the Constitution. Just sort of looking back on that episode, were there any lessons learned? Was there anything that the DAO could have done differently?
I think it's really interesting, and we see a new type of collectors, basically. We've seen in our traditional world, we have foundations, museums acquiring works in our sales, and here the DAO are a great way, I think, to bring people together around one objective. And it was amazing to see all the excitement around pooling money in order to acquire this constitution, this very historic document. And like also like it was a very interesting battle between Ken Griffin and the DAO, and it tells a lot, I think, of how the crypto world is entering the traditional art or the traditional market. And yeah, we have it's still like we're still working on how to onboard the DAOs, because there are some challenge in terms of compliance, legal, etc. But there is some improvement there.
In planning and in terms of what's next for your auctions, is there any type of NFT or anything of interest that Sotheby's is looking at now as maybe the next big thing in the NFT market?
Yeah, so we are very focused on the high end of the market, which is actually our core business. It's to focus, to bring into market some very rare and unique works that you can't find anywhere else in the NFT space, in other marketplaces. And for example, this is what we do with the 10 unminted Chromie Squiggles. This is the very first time some unminted Chromie Squiggles come up for sale at auction, and it won't happen anytime soon. So it's a very rare and great opportunity for any collector to acquire this historic project. And in the next sales, we'll try to always, as we do for all our past sales, like to focus on strengthening this bridge between the traditional art world and the NFT space in order to educate a wider audience to it, and to continue to demystify some aspect of the NFT world. Here, we want to demystify like what is minting. Be created actually the moment the work is minted. And in our last natively digital sale, the collectors, last October, we wanted to demystify the profile of these top collectors leading the space and what's their background, etc. And so like continuing to do some sales like this, we should be able in a more mid-term, long-term to have like a better understanding and maybe some like strong interest from our traditional collectors for NFTs.
Michael, I was really interested in what you had to say about ConstitutionDAO and the battle between the DAO and Ken Griffin. And I was wondering, what was the reaction from Ken? Because, a lot of these folks involved in the ConstitutionDAO are in crypto because they want to find an alternative way, escape, if you will, traditional institutions. And yet the institutions in this case won. So what was the reaction?
I think what I've seen from the NFT space and on social media reacting is that they've seen that really as a competition, as you said, between institution and a DAO and the crypto world. But at the same time, I think it shows like Ken Griffin is a great collector and is chasing one of the most important documents. So it's not the most historic document, so it's not surprising. But it was great to see, and it's a first step, I think, in DAO and like starting to maybe collect some of the most important objects that exist.
The Constitution was valued at around 20 million. It racked up over 40. Do you think without the publicity of the ConstitutionDAO that it generated, it would have amounted to that huge amount?
It's difficult to say, because when you bring such an iconic and a rare object into market, the estimate is based on previous sales, and the scarcity is growing since every sold similar works is off the market usually. So it was really like. It was very difficult to put like a very precise estimate on it. So I think the 20-30 million was conservative, but at the same time, I do agree that the noise the DAO made around this object was at the end part of the history of this document and will continue to be attached to it.
So there's kind of an interesting culture clash here, because Sotheby's very much represents the sort of high-end luxury art buyer market, and yet NFTs are sort of this like decentralized, young, hip, collectors. So, but in your experience, who is actually buying these NFTs?
So it's like when we've done like our first natively digital sale in June, it was really for us. We've done a retrospective of the NFT sale, and it was for us to put the baseline of what movement we see, like what are like from the very first NFT ever minted, and then unfolding like all the different movements. And we've observed from the bidders and the buyers that 70% were new to Sotheby's, which is like maybe a greatest number for any of our sales. But what's more interesting, I think, is that 30% of the buyers were actually existing clients to Sotheby's, which means that we did converted some existing and traditional collectors into the NFTs. It's a long process. Again, it's really a one-to-one educational. Like we need to explain them how to set up a MetaMask wallet, how to also what to do after they bought an NFT. That the main question they might have, because they used to enjoy the work physically in the physical world, but here there is a new appreciation of this new art form. So it's an education that takes time, but we are with a number of sales and educational program, like we are I think going the right way.